Hey there, everyone. This is Samuel Johnson, and welcome back to the MCU Perspectives. And what a momentous day for us to be doing this, because coincidence of all coincidences, the MCU has just been in the news today, and it's something I really want to talk about. So I'm going to take a small bit of time out of this video to actually discuss it. For those not in the know, and let's be honest, I think everybody was in the know on this, but I might as well recap it. About a month ago, Sony and Marvel kind of had a disagreement about funding for Spider-Man. The disagreement went as such: Disney was pushing Sony for more of the box office cut. Sony was refusing until eventually Disney either upped the deal to 50% or it was always a 50%. I don't know. And so Sony finally just said, "Okay, you know what? We're not going to budge on this. You're either going to keep the original deal, or you're going to walk, or you're going to walk it." Or we're just going to keep the original deal. Disney adamantly said no to this, and as a result, both companies wound up splitting off, and since Sony still owns the film rights to Spider-Man, it pretty much meant that Spider-Man was going to be out of the MCU, and let's just say the fan reaction was not a pleasant one. My personal reaction when I saw this was not happy, to say the least, especially with how Spider-Man Far From Home ended. I'm not going to get into that until I actually look at Far From Home, but needless to say, it ended on a cliffhanger, and I was pissed. I was very pissed, especially since Sony said, "Oh, we're going to keep continuing those films. We're going to make it part of our universe." I looked at that and I thought, "No, you can't." Like, here's the thing: I'm okay if they kept Tom Holland on as Spider-Man for their movies. Fine, let him be that. He's good Spider-Man. I like him. But with that being said, this particular incarnation belongs in the MCU. That's where his story's set. His continuity is ingratiated in the MCU. You can't just make a new set of movies and say, "Okay, this is the same Spider-Man," and then just cut all ties to the MCU. I'm sorry, that's not going to work. And even if they wanted to make him part of their own Spider-Man cinematic universe, I'm sorry, but no, just no. If you want to continue the story, at least it has to be done in the MCU. But with that being said, if you were one of those people that looked at this and thought, "I still want to see those movies, I still want to see where they go with Spider-Man," more power to you. If you want, more power to you. I'm not gonna shame you. There's no way There's no way. If you want to see the movies, I say go enjoy them. Like I said, I got into Spider-Man because of the Sam Raimi trilogy, and that has no connections to any other Marvel franchise whatsoever. I know, and I love those movies. I love those movies, or at least the first two. The third one did not hold up as well, but but whatever, that's not what I'm here talking about. But bottom line, if you actually were into Spider-Man before that, then sorry. If you were into Spider-Man before that, then if you were still interested in seeing where Spider-Man went even after the split, then go right. Then I hold nothing against you. Those are your personal opinions. I had my own. You have yours. As long as we don't get angry at each other, I think everything's good. And I hope I hope that if things had gone the same way, that things had continued on the same path, then I hope you would have continued enjoying your films. So anyway, that out of the way, let's talk about what happened today. I don't know the full details. I don't know every single little thing, but today, Sony and Marvel/Disney openly revealed that they had managed to come to a new deal. I don't know the specifics of the deal, but pretty much the big detail that I mentioned, the biggest detail of all, is that Sony and Marvel are gonna cooperate at least for 2 more movies, allowing them to bring Spider-Man back into the MCU with for at least one more solo film and maybe one possible team up film. This next one may actually may not be true. Maybe they will be doing another solo film while he appears in others, or maybe that second film will be a team up with another hero. I don't know. But bottom line, it means that as of today, Spider-Man is back in the MCU, and I'm glad for that because I do want to see what happened after that. I at least this is something that I kind of been thinking about. Like, at least that I feel like that Sony and Marvel, if they did want to still be split up, they should at least collaborate at least for one more. They should have collaborated at least for one more movie. Give Spider-Man a sense of finality before you send him off. And honestly, I'm glad about this. The next movie is supposed to be slated for 2021, about 2 years from now. So I'm good with that. At least let it wrap up the plot thread that was left hanging at the end of Far From Home. I want to see where that goes, and I want to see it get finished and completed. So, with this latest news, I'm actually glad. I'm glad to see that. And again, and like I said, as I want that plot thread finished. After that, I think I'd be good. I think if they made any more Spider-Man films but decided he wasn't a part of the MCU, fine. At least as long as it has a sense of finality, I think I'm good. I want Spider-Man to be in the MCU, and I want to continue enjoying the character. So even if he's not a part of the MCU anymore, I do want to see where the character goes. It's just that I want to, but at the same time, I don't want them to just stop midway and say we're done. So that's kind of that's part of the reason why I got as angry as I did when the original deal fell through. That where they finally just said we're not doing this anymore. But with all this in mind, I am glad that Spider-Man is back in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I'm glad to see him back in there. I don't know. It's fun to see him. I feel like he should be a part of it, especially since Marvel has now reacquired the rights to X-Men and Fantastic Four. It does feel like that the whole gang is back together. Even if Sony still has the rights to the character, I'm still good with this. And I'm still good with this. But again, if you still want us to go see those solo films that Sony's producing that are not connected to the MCU, go ahead, go see them. Go see them. I hope you enjoy yourself. Maybe you'll like Morbius. Maybe you won't. I do not know. I have not seen the movie. It's still in production. So I don't know. Maybe it'll suck. Maybe it'll be good. I have absolutely no idea. All I do know is I wanted to see Venom 2 and the Spider-Verse sequels. So yeah. But anyway, that's enough about that. That is something that I just wanted to really talk about because, damn, just so glad. But you're not here for Spider-Man. You're here for the 17th film in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, Thor Ragnarok. And of course, with this movie in mind, I kind of want to talk about what my feelings were towards the movie prior to seeing that. Like, if you remember my vlogs on the first two Thor films, Thor and Thor: The Dark World, you remember that my opinions on those films aren't exactly great. Like, the first Thor film, I thought was okay, but it was underwhelming. Like, for what it did right, it did right. Like, I liked the characters, I liked the plot I liked the character arc that Thor had. I liked where it wound up. I liked seeing the fantastic world of Asgard, the larger than life effects, all of that nice, cool stuff. That was the stuff that I thought really worked, and it fit Thor perfectly. It's just that the film was held back by it being set primarily on Earth. And again, it did help the plot wasn't bad. It's just that when you had this big stuff, and then suddenly you kind of tap it down with with all these mundane things, it feels like a downgrade, to say the least. And as a result, it hampered the film. Again, I didn't hate it. I think it's all right, but it made the film feel underwhelming. And then you had Thor: The Dark World, which I think just lowered the bar even more so. Like, Thor: The Dark World, I feel like was just them. I feel like it was just kind of phoned in. It was a filler movie, to say the least. The characters didn't feel as natural. The story wasn't that great. The villains sucked. The environments felt smaller, with Asgard only being relegated to like small rooms or something. To like just small rooms, or the new worlds they introduced weren't that interesting to look at, either being a forest or just blank barren black desert. The ongoing plot didn't exactly grab me, or at the very least it wasn't bad, but then it just kind of petered out. The climax, it just kind of felt like the film just felt phoned in. It wasn't awful. There were some things in there that I was alright with. I liked Tom Hiddleston. I still liked Tom Hiddleston as Loki. I liked seeing I liked the death of Thor's mother was definitely a harbor. Really nice. It did help add on more stuff for the rest of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. It's just that it felt lesser, a lot lesser, and it kept the film from being good for me. As such, when this film was announced, when I saw the trailer for this film, I wasn't excited. I'm not gonna lie. Even when I saw that Thor was in this big arena, or the fact that he was gonna be fighting the Hulk, I wasn't interested. I just looked at this film and thought, oh, another Thor movie. Okay. I mean, I was still playing to see the movie. I have pretty much Disney / Marvel has pretty much got my wallet at this point, and at this point they're just at this point, they pretty much have got me on the ankles and are just shaking my money out of my pockets right now. So I was going to see this movie either way. But I did not expect it to be anything spectacular. I looked at this movie and just thought, it's just going to be filler. It's just going to be filler to pass the time until the bigger stuff comes up later. So, yeah, I wasn't that excited to see this movie. But there was one thing that I didn't know about this movie. Something that was very big that helped it out in the long run. And that thing's name is Taika Waititi. Now, if you don't know who this director is, he's a New Zealand filmmaker. I apologize if I got that wrong. I think it's New Zealand. He's primarily an actor and a director, and he's a comedian. He's really funny. You may know him from Flight of the Conchords, or as I know him, as the creator of What We Do in the Shadows, both the movie and the TV show. If you don't know What We Do in the Shadows is, it's a mockumentary about a film crew that's pretty much following these group of vampires around in their home, just seeing their day-to-day lives, seeing how they live, and it's a great movie. If you haven't seen it yet, it is great. It is hilarious. It's hilarious. The characters are funny. It's got a lot of good jokes, and because it's a mockumentary, it is kind of improvised, and it's really fun. The same goes for the television show. It's different characters, but it's got that same air and feel, and it does actually have its own characters and story arc that's going on, and it's a lot of fun. I really recommend it. As such, with him at the helm, which I didn't know this until after I saw the movie, the film actually improves a bit. And as a result, when I went to go see this film, I thoroughly enjoyed myself. I actually had a lot of fun. Do I still have a lot of fun do I still think the film's fun 2 years later? Well, yeah, I do. But before we get into that, let's get into my long-ass plot summary. Let's get into my long-ass plot summary. The film opens up with Thor meeting this demonic being known as Surtur. It turns out that after the events of Age of Ultron, Thor went out into the cosmos looking for the Infinity Stones, but pretty much turned up with jack squat. He couldn't find anything. However, he has heard tales about something. About destruction, about the Nine Realms in chaos, that they're rallying for war against Asgard. Like, something's going on. And he's begun having dreams of Asgard enraptured in flames. And so, he decided to look into that, and that search led him to the being known as Surtur, who's pretty much got him captured. Pretty much what's going on is that Surtur is supposed to be the bringer of Ragnarok, an event wherein Asgard it's pretty much just the end of the world. Or in this case, the end of Asgard. And the person that's supposed to bring it is Surtur. What would happen, and how it's going to be brought about is that Surtur's crown has to be placed in something called the Eternal Flame. A fire that literally burns forever and has the ability to give life. And if his crown is placed in the flame, Surtur will arise from it as tall as a mountain and pretty much just drive his sword into the heart of Asgard and obliterate it. As such, Thor says that all he has to do is just take the crown and keep it away from the Eternal Flame, and Asgard is safe. And so Surtur just thinks that Thor is just being overconfident. Like, oh, you can't do this. You're not gonna do this. You're too confident. But it turns out but the thing is, Thor let himself be captured because he knew that the best way to get answers was to go to the source. As such, he intentionally lets Surtur capture him. And he quickly proves that he is still holding all the cards when Mjolnir flies in. He breaks out of his chains and just wails on Surtur. As such, Surtur calls his minions, which leads to the Led Zeppelin song. I forgot what it was called. I think it's called Immigration. Either way, it goes, "Welcome to the land of the ice and snow and I don't remember the lyrics, but it's just such a kick-ass scene. As that music plays in the background, he just starts wailing on all of his monsters, and eventually, in his battle, leads him to pretty much uppercutting Surtur with his hammer, causing the crown to fall off and Surtur to pretty much disintegrate. As such, Thor grabs Surtur's crown and latches it to his back via the chain, but he still has all of Surtur's goons to deal with, and so he tries calling Heimdall to bring him back to Asgard. Only it turns out that Heimdall's no longer in charge of the Bifrost. It turns out that Heimdall has been labeled a traitor and was set for trial, but before that day he disappeared. As such, his job has been handed over to another little pissant named Scourge, who has pretty much just been using the Bifrost to get whatever the heck he wanted and pick up chicks with his two with the two big with apparently two of his biggest prize pieces of his collection are these two guns that he got from Texas that he calls Des and Droy. As such, he just kind of starts showing. As such, he doesn't hear Thor's plea for help as he just starts messing with all of his stuff to impress these chicks. But eventually one of the girls notices that the sword that the little pedestal of the sword goes into to activate the Bifrost is glowing, and so Scourge Scourge activates the Bifrost just as Thor is dealing with this giant dragon thing. And, well, ultimately Thor is saved, and the dragon's head ends up coming with him, and detached from the body, that thing does not last. Though it also sprays everybody in the Bifrost chamber with its green blood, which in turn scares the women off. As such, Thor is confused as to where the heck Heimdall is, but Scourge gives him all the details. But either way, Thor says he needs to go see his father, because there are some things he needs to talk about. Namely, for example, when he was talking to Surtur, Thor says that as long as Odin is in Asgard, Surtur won't be able to get near it. But Surtur told him Odin is not in Asgard. So then combine that with what's going on in the Nine Realms, Thor starts getting suspicious. And then when he goes to the middle of Asgard, his suspicions are somewhat confirmed when he sees a giant statue of Loki has been erected, and Odin just kind of sitting on his ass watching a play of Loki's quote-unquote sacrifice. And yeah, if you remember at the end of Thor: The Dark World, Loki isn't dead. He has replaced Odin, and this is just and now Loki's just living it up in the lap of luxury, just kind of patting himself on the back while everyone else is oblivious. As such, Thor comes in just as the fictionalized version of Loki's death as a play is being finished. This being the fictionalized version of Loki's death is just so silly and stupid. Just playing out. But once it's over, Thor makes his presence known, and of course, Loki and of course Loden. I guess I'll just call him Loki. Sees Thor, and of course he yells back and puts back up the act. Oh, my son, it's nice to see you. And he shows him the crown of Surtur and has the guards put it in the vault. At which point Thor just starts questioning him about all the stuff, like all the Nine Realms are preparing for war, and yet here you are sitting on your ass eating grapes. And it's like, I should just leave them in freedom. It's fine and all that. But Thor just keeps pushing and pushing and so when he realizes that Loki's not going to be giving it up, he tosses Mjolnir across the landscape, and then puts his hand directly behind Loki's head, saying that no matter where Mjolnir goes, the hammer will come right back to him, right into his hand. And since Loki's head is right in its pathway, yeah, he makes it clear he's not gonna survive. And so Loki keeps saying, "You'll be executed for this," and then he says, "Well, I'll see you on the other side, brother." And so Loki says, "Okay, fine," and he drops the illusion and gets out, and Thor pushes him out of the way before he grabs Mjolnir. And so yeah. Asgard now sees that Loki was masquerading as Odin. As such, immediately Thor starts demanding Loki tell him where Odin is, and so Loki is pretty much happy to oblige, as they immediately use the Bifrost to go to Earth. As it turns out that Loki sent Odin to this, I think, a retirement home in New York. A retirement home which, when they arrive, is in the process of being torn down. And what else? And just minor thing, we see that Thor and Loki are now in civilian garb when they're on Earth, with Mjolnir being disguised as an umbrella and Loki kind of looking like this business suit. And I'm only mentioning this because it's a nice little detail, because later on we see that all Thor needs to do to turn back into his godly form is to smack the umbrella on the ground, and boom, he becomes Thor. It's a nice little callback to the comics, wherein when he had a secret identity as Donald Blake, the Mjolnir was disguised as a cane, so smacking it down, boom, yeah, I like that. Just minor thing, but I like that. But either way, they don't know where Odin is, and on top of that, we also learn a bit of character stuff with Thor, as it turns out that since the end of Age of Ultron, he and Jane have broken up. It turns out that, I don't know, like, they never explain why they broke up. It's just pretty much just that these two girls come up, ask for a selfie with Thor, and they say, "Sorry to hear that Jane dumped you." And then Thor starts coming up and says, "I dumped her. It was a mutual dumping." But yeah, they never explain why they dumped. I think it's just an excuse to try and get Natalie Portman for why Natalie Portman is in this movie, which I admit I don't like that. I don't like it. Like, I know I said I prefer the larger mundane stuff and that the stuff on Earth kind of held that all back, but I don't know. Jane Foster was a big part of Thor's character in the previous films. He went out of his way to go save her life in the second film, even though he barely knew her. And she was part of the reason he became a better person in the first movie. So I don't know, just kind of brush her aside. I didn't like that, and I'm kind of glad that they're gonna bring her back in the next Thor movie. So yeah, I'm okay with that. But so yeah, that's a minor thing, but whatever. As Thor and Loki are talking about where they can find Odin, suddenly, a very familiar mystical gateway opens up under Loki that ports him away, leaving behind only a little card with an address on it. Thor ends up going to the address, and it turns out that it leads him to the Sanctum Sanctorum. And as he knocks on the door, he's suddenly whisked inside and meets with the owner of the fine establishment, Dr. Stephen Strange, who immediately is asking Thor questions, as it turns out that he's the one that ported Loki away when he arrived. As we end up seeing that little scene that we saw at the end of Doctor Strange, where the good doctor is talking to Thor, saying that I have a list of people that are threats to the earth, and your brother happens to be on that list. And so, of course, Thor, like in the end of Doctor Strange, Thor tells him that if they can find his dad, then they'll all just go home. And so Doctor Strange says, "Good, then I'll help you." However, Thor ends up asking the good doctor, "Wait, if you know where my dad is, why haven't you called and told me?" And the good doctor gives two excuses: one a serious one that's a joke. One, even if he did know, he couldn't just call Thor. He doesn't have a cell phone, and even if he doesn't just have a cell phone, two, Odin didn't want to come back for some reason. He was adamant for some reason he didn't want to. He wanted to stay in exile, which is kind of which is a little bit strange. Either way, though, the good doctor is able to figure out that Odin is in Norway, and so after pulling out a strand of Thor's hair, he's able to open up a gateway to Norway, and he brings Loki back. Sends Thor and Loki on their way, seeing Odin just standing over a cliff. As such, both Thor and Loki go to collect Odin, but he seems to be kind of in a daze, saying how he looks at everything and saying, "Look at this, I'll look at that. Look at this, your mother's calling me." And Thor thinks that this is just more of Loki's trickery, that he has him under a spell. But then Odin reveals that no, he's not. Loki did in fact place him under a spell to keep him pacified, but Odin broke that. It took him a while, but he broke through the spell. This is him. It turns out that he's not. It turns out that he stayed exiled willingly. As he sits down and has Thor and Loki sit with him, and he just kind of apologizes to them, saying how he failed them, how he loves them, but then he also tells them that Ragnarok is upon them. Thor tells him, "No, I took Surtur's crown. It's in your vault." And Odin says, someone else. She's coming." And it turns out Thor and Loki have a sister. It turns out before Odin had Thor, he had another child, a girl by the name of Hela, the goddess of death. Like, we learn their full backstory later, but pretty much in Odin's early days, Hela and him conquered the 9 realms with battle, bloodshed, and just a drive for destruction. However, Odin, after the 9 realms were conquered, pretty much calmed down and said, "I no longer want to be a conqueror. I'm just going to settle down and rule what I have here and try and be peaceful." Hela, however, didn't want that. She wanted to keep growing, and pretty much her ambition started to outgrow Odin's, and so Odin banished her, locked her away in a prison of his own design. And as long as he's alive, she was away, but unfortunately, he's dying. He's not going to last much longer right now. As such, he tells them that as soon as she'll be able to come back now that he's gonna go, but at the same time he has one last moment with his kids and tells them that he loves them, and it's just a nice little heart-wrenching emotional scene as Odin has one final moment with Thor and Loki before he literally fades away. I mean, he just fades away into gold dust. As he fades away, Thor kind of starts getting angry. Clouds start brewing, and we suddenly see these little bits of lightning kind of jumping between Thor's fingers. And of course, he's obviously pissed. His dad is dead, and he blames Loki for this. However, they don't have much time to argue, as a little bit behind them, they see a dark cloud forming. As such, Thor and Loki get into their battle suits. Thor banging his hammer banging his umbrella on the ground and getting into his outfit while Loki just drops the illusion and gets his weapons out. As we are introduced to one of our villains of this movie, I say one because there's going to be another later, Hela, the goddess of death. And who upon comes out and knows that Odin is dead and wants to know exactly. And when Thor and Loki tell her who they are, she tells them to kneel to her. Thor, of course, says F that and throws Mjolnir at her, and she just catches it with little effort and breaks it. Which, yeah, that's a big deal. That is like, oh, sweet mother of God, wow. At which point, Loki starts panicking and says that they need to go back to Asgard. And Thor says, no, don't do that. But immediately the Bifrost is called and they're brought in. And Thor, of course, didn't want this to happen because Odin said that Hela's power came from Asgard. If she gets there, she'll be almost unstoppable. So, of course, since they're heading right to Asgard from the Bifrost, who decided to tag along but Hela? Immediately, the three start getting into a struggle, which ultimately results in Thor and Loki getting knocked out of the Bifrost. Loki first, Thor second. And as a result, they're both just kind of flung to the outer edges of the cosmos. Thor, we don't see what happened to the Loki, because again, he fell out first, but we see that as Thor falls, he eventually finds himself going through a wormhole, and then lands in what can easily be described as a giant junk pile. He manages to get out unscathed, Asgardian physiology, but we see that it just seems to be miles upon miles of junk as far as the eye can see. But there are people living here, as immediately a bunch of freights come out, and these people in robes and these people in raggedy old robes come up and say, "Are you a fighter or food?" Thor tries to calm down, saying, "I'm just passing by," and they say, "Oh, he's food." And so Thor tries summoning Mjolnir to fight them, but since it's gone, yeah, he has to do it best he can. And so he tries fighting them, and while he does take out two of them, he's very outnumbered as they immediately throw an electro net over him and they just start mobbing him and beating the crap out of him. However, he's soon saved as a new ship arrives, and enters this new girl, this girl with darker skin and these white markings that she has around her eyes, and who has very clearly had one too many to drink. As when she lands, she downs the entire bottle, throws it aside, and as she's walking out of her ship, she stumbles and actually falls off the ramp. But she does manage to regain herself and says that Thor is hers, and if they want her, they have to go through her. They say, "Well, we've already got him." She says, "Oh, then I guess I have to go through you." As such, she immediately starts knocking her gloves together that cause them to spark up. And then once the incident comes to life, the blasters in her ship start reacting with her arms, and she just mows down everybody in the crowd but one guy. And that one guy doesn't last long either, as he tries taking this girl on head on, and she just knocks him aside. As such, Thor manages to get free from the net, and he thanks this girl for saving him, only for her to shoot something into his neck, and then activate it, which tases him and knocks him out. As such, she drags him back onto her ship, and she ends up flying the ship to what looks like a really nice city, kind of in the middle of this crap heap. Thor wakes up and demands that he go back to Asgard, that he needs to go there, but she immediately just tases him and knocks him out again. And when Thor wakes up, he finds himself with this weird little light show. And we soon learn that the place that Thor has landed on is a planet called Sakaar, a world that's kind of on the outer rims of the universe. It's just pretty much like the galaxy's junk heap. There's a bunch of portals scattered all over this place, and just random crap falls through. Wanderers, scavengers, lost souls, anything. If it's thrown away, odds are if you threw it into if it's garbage, it most likely wound up on Sakaar. However, the head of Sakaar is the first person to wind up here. Someone called the Grand Master. He managed to build this entire place up into a city and he organizes something called the Contest of Champions, wherein he takes some of the more powerful members of this planet and forces them to fight, and that's kind of why Thor's here. As once this lady who's a scavenger, yeah, that's what she is, a scavenger. She brought him in, and she brought him in to be used to fight in the Contest of Champions. As such, Thor immediately gets to meet the Grandmaster, and wouldn't you know it, he's played by Jeff Goldblum. And again, he's the second villain of this movie, and he's glorious. Like, I'm gonna just say this right now. Jeff Goldblum in this movie is fantastic as the Grand Master. He's like a very he's a very affable villain. He's very in his own little world, and Jeff Goldblum, and the film knows how to use Jeff Goldblum's strengths to make this character funny, kind of threatening, but likable, and just all around very entertaining to watch. As the very first scene, he's just kind of like, oh, who is this guy? Oh, he seems like a fighter. Oh, you brought a nice one. It's like, oh, you did great, Scavenger. And he even goes to his right man. It's like, hey, it's like, tell her what I get. Tell her what I usually tell you when I talk about. Tell her what I call her when I talk about her with you. It starts with a B. And honestly, it's even funnier with his right hand. With his right hand, who's this complete stone of a woman who is just a complete bitch. As she immediately just calls her trash, and he's like, wait, we just wanted to call her trash? This whole thing doesn't even give it a B. And of course, yeah, I just love it. Like, it's just a nice little thing. Like, she's kind of the straight man. Like, she just kind of deals with the Grandmaster's crap, but she likes her job. She's good at what she does, and he likes her. She's good at what she does. She obviously likes where she is, so it's just funny. And of course, you got the Grandmaster, and he's just nice, and he's just all around fun. He's an affable type of villain. Like, he's obviously evil. Like, one of the first things he does is that he brings in his cousin, who I swear to God was the weapons broker from Guardians of the Galaxy that Star-Lord tried to sell the Power Stone to at first, until he learned that Thanos is after this and he wanted no part of it. I swear to God it's the same guy, but don't quote me on that. I could be wrong, but I swear it's him. And of course, and the first thing he does is that you're pardoned from life, and he just gets out a stick and uses it to melt him. Literally, he melts him. As such, Valkyrie pretty much sells Thor to him to be used in the Contest of Champions, and of course, Thor wants no part of this. He wants abso-freaking-lutely no part of this. He wants to get back to Asgard. Hela is there. She is most likely wrecking everybody's shit. He needs to get back there now. But of course, the Grandmaster says, no, the Grandmaster says, okay, so the Grandmaster tells him, okay, tell you what. If you want to fight, if you want to escape, you got to fight in the Contest of Champions. I've got this great champion that the Scavenger brought to me. If you can beat him, you win your freedom. As such, Thor, of course, decides that he's going to try and fight them. However, as the Grandmaster shows him around and even gives him this detail, Thor looks to the side and sees that Loki is schmoozing with his entourage. It turns out that when Loki got thrown out of the Bifrost, he also wound up on Sakaar, only from his perspective, he's been here for a few weeks. Which even Thor finds surprising. And so the Grandmaster reveals that on Sakaar, time moves a little differently. Like anywhere else in the universe, would probably be 1 billion years old. But here on Sakaar, he's still a young man. He's still a young man in his prime. Ish. As such, pretty much, yeah, time's just screwy and wonky, and so when Loki got here, he went about his usual business, trying to play to his strengths and get on the winning side. Sorry, got distracted a little bit. So, yeah, Loki's with the Grandmaster's entourage, and so Thor, of course, and what's even funnier, too, is that he mocks Thor, where Thor says that he's the god of thunder, but all you can do is just get a little tingles between his fingers. And so he just starts mocking him and calling him the Lord of Thunder. Sorry, I'm getting thirsty. I'm taking a sip of this. Sorry, my mouth was dry. I needed a drink. Anyway. But immediately, Thor is thrown into the prison where they keep their warriors. And there he meets two other warriors. A rock guy called Korg and this insect called Meek. If you read Planet Hulk and World War Hulk, you probably know these characters. And I've seen the movie Planet Hulk. I've seen the movie Planet Hulk, so I kind of do know these characters. But in this movie, they're more comedic takes, as Meek is supposed to be this insect warrior, but he never talks. And Korg is played by Taika Waititi, and of course, why not? Why shouldn't he be this character? He was in What We Do in the Shadows, both in the movie and he made an appearance as that same character in What We Do in the TV show. But yeah, it turns out that, so Korg is pretty much just here because he wanted to start a revolution, but nobody showed up except for his mom and her boyfriend, who Korg hated. As such, Korg's pretty much just stuck here as well, and unfortunately, he says that if Thor went up against the Grandmaster's great champion, he's not going to make it out alive, as the last guy who fought him, Doug, is dead. So yeah, at this point, Korg doesn't think that Thor's chances are that well. On top of that, Loki does talk to Thor later using an illusion, saying that, listen, maybe if you side with me, then we can probably just get cozy in here, and we can get cozy in here, as if we're working together, we can take out the Grandmaster, and we can be in charge of this place. But Thor ain't having any of that, as he wants to get back to Asgard, so he's willing to do whatever is necessary to try and earn his freedom. As such, later on, he's gathering weapons and just kind of talking about how he kind of misses Mjolnir. And of course, and it's in this room that's separated. One side is prisoners getting weapons, and the other side's like this bar area. And in the bar area, he sees the scavenger that grabbed him. And so Korg says, "Oh yeah, you gotta watch out for those Asgardians. They're a bit mighty tough." And when the instant Thor hears that, you're like, "Wait, she's Asgardian?" And so he tries to talk to her and says that you gotta help me out here. Asgard's in trouble. But the scavenger isn't exactly willing to listen to him. But then Thor sees a marking on her arm, and Thor realizes that she is a Valkyrie. Essentially, they're like Asgard's great warriors, and so Thor thinks that they're sworn to serve the king of Asgard. However, even when Thor tries to appeal to her about how Asgard's in danger, how she needs to protect this place, she doesn't exactly want to do, which makes Thor think she's either a traitor or a coward. And she just says, "Look, I'm not going back here. I'm staying here. I'm staying here. I want nothing to do with that anymore." And as such, she just kind of goes away. And I'm gonna call her Valkyrie from now on, because that's the character she's supposed to be. And Valkyrie was kind of a spin-off character in Thor. I don't know much about her beyond that, so sorry, but yeah, I'm gonna call her Valkyrie from now on. It's much easier. Either way, as Thor gets his weapons ready, and so he goes into the big arena where there's a big crowd. Before Thor sent in, he gets his long, luscious hair cut, so now it's just kind of short. And the person that cut it is our Stan Lee cameo, and it's a funny scene as he's brought in, and Stan Lee comes in, and Stan Lee comes in with a robot arm. It's like, now just stand still. I can't move this thing as well as I could. As I say, if you touch one lock of my hair, I'm going to end you or something. And then the instant he gets his arm working, it suddenly looks straight. It's like, "Please, kind sir, please don't cut my hair." And it's just really funny as he just starts screaming "no" while Stan Lee just starts laughing. It's just darkly amusing, and I love it. But yeah, Thor gets his weapons ready and even gets kind of a helmet that resembles the wing ears that we saw in his original helmet. And so the Grandmaster, so he's introduced as the Lord of Thunder, and so we see Loki kind of go into the skybox. He's getting prepared, and apparently Loki bet against Thor. And so the Grandmaster, big Grandmaster hologram, says that they're now introducing their second champion, who's big, he's green, he's seen nothing ever like him. And so he says, "Ladies and gentlemen, the Incredible!" And so Thor's getting ready. And who should the great champion be? But the Incredible Hulk. And yes, it is this movie is a kind of sort of adaptation of Planet Hulk. It turns out that after the Hulk disappeared at the end of Age of Ultron, this is where he wound up, and pretty much he is now just the he's just pretty much the champion, he's pretty much just the great champion of the contest of champions. And so the instant Thor sees Hulk, he yells out, "Yeah!" And of course everyone's like shocked. He's just shocked, and he says, "I know him! He's a friend from work! Hey Loki, look who it is!" And Loki is just starting to freak out because, again, when the last time he saw the Hulk just beat him around like a rag doll. And so he tries to make an escape, but the Grandmaster stops him and kind of gets him back in his seat. But Thor's just happy to see the Hulk. He's like, "Oh, come on, I can't believe it. I lost my..." It's like, there's so much I want to talk to you about. I lost the hammer, it's still kind of fresh, but oh man, I'm really glad to see you. But even with all this talk, the Hulk still seems ready to battle. And Thor's just like, "Oh, Banner, come on, Banner, it's just me, friend." And the Hulk's response, "No Banner, only Hulk." As such, the fight commences, and yeah, the fight starts going around, and Thor's trying to get through to the Hulk, saying, "Come on, Banner, I know you're in there, come on." But the Hulk's just not listening to him. At one point, Thor manages to knock him into a wall, and managed to knock the Hulk into the wall, and he tries to do the "hey big guy, sun's going down" thing from Age of Ultron. And for a second, it does seem to be working until the Hulk grabs Thor and just throws him around like a rag doll, which gets Loki cheering. That's when Thor pretty much realizes that he can't get to Bruce. So best way thing he can do is just brute force it. Just do brute force. As such, he and the Hulk get into this really kick-ass fight scene between them. As even without his powers, Thor is still a great physical match with the Hulk. And so it's just really nice seeing them fighting around, using weapons, trying to get the upper hand, actually using regular wrestling moves. It's just really fun. It's a kick-ass fight scene. But it ultimately ends with Thor kind of on the ground as the Hulk is just wailing on him. Until Thor suddenly gets a vision of Odin standing on that cliff. And then suddenly his eyes glow as he suddenly emits a blast of lightning that throws the Hulk off of him. And immediately he winds up... And it pretty much he ends up causing a crater that immediately just blasts the Hulk away with a surge of lightning. Which I'll talk about this when I get to my thoughts on the movie. Or at least when we get to, at least in the climax. But it pretty much looks like that Thor is gonna beat the Hulk as he manages to shock him, and the shockwave just looks great. And the Grandmaster is just kind of looking at this, thinking, "What the heck?" But it's obviously, it's such a great turn of force that the crowd is actually cheering for Thor now, because it looks like he's actually going to beat the Hulk. That is until the Grandmaster pulls out his own little control device with that taser on Thor's neck and activates it, which knocks Thor out and causes him to fall to the ground, and also discontinuing his giant burst of power. As such, the Hulk takes advantage of this and jumps miles into the air. And just delivers a giant pile driver delivers a giant punch that knocks Thor out. As such, when Thor awakens, he's not back in the prison cells, but actually in the private chambers of the Hulk himself. My guess is that with all that power, he couldn't just be, and how close he got, they might have decided to treat him like an honored guest. And on top of that, he's the Hulk's friend. As we learn later, the Hulk actually is sort of glad to see Thor. It was actually glad to have Thor around. As we see that, as such, when Thor wakes up, he's he's wondering what the heck's going on, and he wants to know exactly how the Hulk got here, and the Hulk just pretty much explains that the Quinjet just crashed here, and it's just been here ever since. As such, Thor learns, wait, the Quinjet's here, and so the Hulk goes to his window and points to where the Quinjet is, and Thor thinks that he can just go down there. He wants the Hulk to come with him, but the Hulk is actually pretty content here. He's happy where he is. He's happy where he is. He doesn't want to go. He doesn't want to go anywhere. But which gets Thor angry, and causes a yelling match between them. Before Thor just tries to leave. But it turns out there's like a barrier around the Hulk's room that pretty much prevents Thor from leaving, thanks to that little shock collar on him, meaning that he can't leave this room. And again, and the Hulk knew this. He just messed with him to see what would happen. As such, the Hulk is content to have Thor around. The Hulk is content to have Thor around. He likes him, but then later on we see that the Hulk is actually friends with Valkyrie as he goes out they frequently have sparring matches and training, and so when the Thor is left alone in the room, he tries contacting Heimdall to figure out what's going on. And I might as well get back to what's going on in Asgard, as the instant Hela arrived on Asgard, she pretty much just owned the place. Like, the first thing she did was that she killed Volstagg and not Prince Charming. Like, just pretty much just impaled them, and she found Scourge, who she said, "You have good survival instincts, you want a job?" And so she pretty much just walked through all of Asgard's legions, which were also led by the Chinese guy, who, guess what, also got killed. I think the only one that's made it out alive is Lady Sif, but I don't know what happened to her. They don't show her. We don't see what happened to her. Like, she just gone. Did she die between movies? Did she die in the last movie and I just didn't see it? I don't know. Either way, at least 3 of the 4 unnecessary side characters are now gone, and Asgard's pretty much just been laid to waste. All of the soldiers have pretty much been killed, and Hela's made her way to the throne room and destroys she ends up destroying this big mural that was in the middle of the throne room that's supposed to label all of Odin's successes, but it turns out it was actually paved over a mural depicting her and Odin in their conquest. And she pretty much now that she's back, she wants to continue that conquest. She wants to continue to expand, grow across the 9 realms. 9 realms. And how she does that, and her first plan on doing this is to go down to Odin's vault, which actually leads to a nice humorous scene where she just starts insulting everything. Where, like, she goes to the stand of the Infinity Gauntlet, knocks it down, it's like, it's fake, most of the stuff is fake. She goes to the Coven in the first movie, he's like, it's weak. Weak. She sees the Tesseract, and it's like, that's worth something. But it turns out her aim, she says, oh, and she even sees Surtur's crown, it's like, oh, that's nice. But it turns out why she's here is for the Eternal Flame, as she grabs a small handful of it, and then immediately opens up a hole in the vault's floor, where a crypt of where they go to an old Asgardian tomb is, as well as her pet, which is a giant wolf, and that is awesome. As such, using the Eternal Flame, she spreads it out across the tomb and brings all the dead warriors back to life, and pretty much wants to use them as her army. Unfortunately, though, for her, she can't leave Asgard, and the reason for this is, when she went to the throne room, someone came by and took the sword that controlled the Bifrost, and that someone was Heimdall. Because like I said earlier, he ran away for his trial, and and because he can see everything, it's kind of hard to catch him. And as such, after Hela pretty much gained control, he's pretty much been doing an underground insurgency, gathering as many innocent Asgardians as he can, and pretty much just bringing them to this little safe haven, while defending them from Hela's soldiers. As such, when Thor calls out to Heimdall, Heimdall catches him and allows Thor to see what's going on Asgard. On Asgard, though, even Heimdall admits that Thor is a little out of the way to find. As such, Heimdall says that if you have to get back here, you need to get back here quickly. And he says and Thor wants to know how you can get there. And he says that you're surrounded by portals. You need to go for the big one. And so he sends Thor back, and Thor realizes he kind of needs to find. And so he realizes he does need to find a way out of here. But first things first, he's got to get that little thing off of him. He's got to get the little pacifying thing off of him. As such, he has a talk with the Hulk, wherein we kind of get more into the Hulk's character in this, and I'll talk about that when I get to this and I get into it. As he and the Hulk manage to talk, and it is angry at first, but they eventually do manage to calm down enough to actually get into a conversation with the Hulk, talking about how he's kind of like a flame and Thor is just kind of water, blah blah blah. It's emotional stuff, and I'll talk about it when I get to my overall thoughts on the movie. But Thor manages to talk the Hulk into calling Valkyrie over the next day. As such, when Valkyrie arrives, Thor tries to sit down and talk with her, but she still doesn't really want to talk with him. Thor keeps trying to tell her, no, come on, listen, Hela, look, I don't want to. Listen, Hela's in Asgard. She's ruining everything, but the instant Valkyrie learns that Hela's there, she's like, well, Hela's there, you're already doomed. You might as well just stay here. But Thor, of course, just wants to know what's going on. And here's where we learn Valkyrie's backstory. It turns out that, yeah, there was a team of Valkyrie. We learned that there's a reason why there are no other Valkyries besides her. It turns out that when Odin banished Hela, she did try to come back. As such, Odin sent the Valkyries to go face her, and it was a massacre. Pretty much every Valkyrie was killed, save for Valkyrie, I suppose you can say. Valkyrie, the one that captured Thor. And it's implied that she ran away, that she ran in the battle when she realized how hopeless it was, and that's part of the reason why she's on Sakaar, and it's just kind of as big a mess as she is. She's trying to just forget about that entire life and just trying to drown herself in her own sorrow. She wants nothing else to do with Asgard, and even with Hela around, she doesn't want anything to do with that. She thinks that she's still better off here. As such, Thor tries to get her help once more, even saying we're gonna form a little team, you, me, and the Hulk. Though the Hulk says that he's a lone wolf, or his equivalent of he's a lone wolf. And Thor tries getting close enough to her and grab her arm, but she, about a knife to his throat, says, no, I'm not helping you. And Thor says, okay, that's good. And it turns out he actually grabbed the controller for his little tag, and he immediately shorts it out and removes it. As such, Thor manages to break a window and escape from the Hulk's room, and makes a beeline for the Quinjet. He manages to start it up after going through a series of voice commands, but just before he can get the ship off the ground, the Hulk arrives and says, no, stay, as he just starts wrecking the ship. Thor keeps trying to calm him down. It's like, no, you're wrecking this, just knock it off. And Thor keeps trying to find some way to get the ship active, even with the Hulk tearing it apart. And then he activates the last transmission they got from that the Hulk got from Black Widow. And and as such, the Hulk ends up watching it, and he immediately starts just kind of shifting and going nuts as we see him shifting between Bruce Banner and the Hulk is just obviously trying to resist the transformation as much as he could, but in the end, it becomes a losing battle as the Hulk eventually transforms back into Bruce Banner. As the Thor goes over to Bruce, and Bruce is just kind of confused, wondering what the heck's going on. What about it's like, Thor, what's going on? Is Sokovia okay? Did we win? And Thor, we soon learn that that Bruce Banner hasn't been out for a while. It turns out that ever since that Bruce turned into the Hulk back in Age of Ultron, he hasn't turned back. And that film took place 2 years before this one. So for the entire time between that film and this one, it's been the Hulk in the control. Bruce has very much just been kaput, gone, which I get they did imply, but Bruce is obviously freaking out, especially when he learns that they're on an alien planet, and especially when he learns that they're on an alien planet. As such, Thor gives him some clothes that were in the Quinjet, which are Tony Stark's clothes. And so they managed to go into the crowd and try and go into the city to try and hide. But the Grandmaster pretty much just told everyone that his champion is nowhere to be found. That the Lord of Thunder and the Lord of Thunder, named aka Thor, is responsible. So he wants everyone to find them and bring them back to him. As such, we get some more character stuff as we see Bruce is just having a mini freak out, and Thor is trying to keep him calm. And so Bruce tells him that he doesn't really want any part of this right now, because in his own words, other times when he's turned into the Hulk, it's like he and the Hulk have had one hand on the steering wheel. Here it's like Hulk took the keys to the car and threw Bruce in the trunk. As such, Bruce believes that if he transforms into the Hulk again, he ain't coming back out. He's not going to come back out. So he doesn't want to turn into the Hulk. He doesn't want to turn back. He doesn't want to be the Hulk. He doesn't want to help out in Thor's big plan, especially when Thor wanted the Hulk. But at the same time, eventually Thor realizes that, and while it does take some convincing, Thor eventually does agree with it. Finally does concede and say, okay, fine, you don't need to be the Hulk, but they still need to find a way off this planet, and Thor just can't leave Bruce there. As such, they manage to find. They try getting through a crowd, though they get briefly separated with Bruce about to be attacked by this big guy, only for this big guy to suddenly get zapped, and it turns out the one that zapped him was Valkyrie. As it turns out, the Grandmaster, after Hulk and Thor escaped, called Valkyrie and Loki in because he's aware that Loki is Thor's adopted brother, and since Valkyrie was the one that brought them in, he set up a little contest between them to see who can catch them. As such, Loki started pushing Valkyrie's buttons and even learned about her heritage, and he just starts mocking her and says, "Oh, you must be the last survivor. It must be a tragic memory." And he manages to stir one last memory in her, as we actually see just snippets of the battle between the Valkyries and Hela, and it's actually very beautiful and majestic to watch. But it's horrific as we see the Valkyries are just ultimately decimated, and this ultimately gets Valkyrie pissed off enough that she ends up knocking Loki out. As such, when she finds Thor and Bruce in the market, she tells him to come with her, though she doesn't realize that Bruce is the Hulk. Bruce the Hulk is, well, who would? What brings them back? But pretty much with that little vision, it's kind of given her a bit of a wake-up call, as she realizes she has been running away from her troubles, and at this point, she can't do that anymore. She can't do that anymore. She doesn't plan to stop drinking, of course, but she does say that with all this in mind, if she's just gonna die, she wants to die taking Hela down with her, and so she's willing to help them out, and so she says she wants to help out Thor. And as a peace offering, she shows them the chained up Loki in her chambers. As such, they realize they need to find a way out, and Valkyrie initially thinks that maybe they should just fly through a portal, and portal would take them to Xandar and get them to, and they'd be in Asgard in like 18 months. But Thor says that no, they have to take the big one, which is this giant portal, which is actually called the Devil's Anus. And so but Valkyrie thinks it's a bad idea. If they flew in her ship, that her ship would be torn apart. They need a ship that can withstand that, the energy that the Devil's Anus puts out. And they say, and Loki, overhearing all this, decides that says that he has a way that he knows such a ship, as the Grandmaster has 2 personal ships they can get in. If they can grab one of them, they can fly out. And it just so happens that while he was in the part of the Grandmaster's entourage, he happened to learn some of their access codes, so he offers his help in this. And while the group is obviously hesitant to trust him, especially since he's pretty much gotten on the nerves of everybody in that room, they kind of have no choice in this regard. They kind of have no choice in that regard, as they do need to get off of Sakaar. As such, they were wondering how they'd be able to cause enough of a distraction to get to the ships, and Thor says we need to stage a revolution. As such, he has Valkyrie break into the chambers where they're keeping all the prisoners and hand Korg a weapon, and pretty much the revolution just goes into full swing, and all the prisoners manage to escape, and with Loki and Valkyrie's help, they manage to short out all their pacifying collars and just start going nuts. As such, in the midst of the distraction, Thor and Loki manage to break into the ship's chambers and ultimately manage to break into the ship's chambers and manage to mow down guards while taking an elevator up to where the ship is. Loki admits that he's probably not going to go back to Asgard. He's too happy here, and Thor actually says he agrees. He says that he did hope that there was good in Loki, but he's a trickster, and this place is a place that he's actually good at. He prospers here, so he thinks that maybe he should be left here. He probably would be. He'd probably be better off on Sakaar. And it's actually a really nice scene as we see them actually talking, and Thor even pats his brother on the back. And so when they get up to the chamber, they use something they call "Help Me," wherein Loki pretends to be sick, and then when people are running up to help them, Thor throws him at the guards, knocking them out. But just before they leave, it turns out Loki called security Loki went to a control panel and either called security or is calling security, and just pretty much is just planning on throwing Thor under the bus. However, Thor expected this, and that's part of why he tapped Loki on the back, as it turns out he put another one of those pacifying devices on him, which he immediately activates, paralyzing Loki. Loki then he tells them that, yes, you're the god of we've gone through this song and dance before, and about, you know what, I've changed, I've grown up, and I know, and you wanna, and you're the god of mischief, Loki, but you could be so much more. That's what he throws the controls of the taser away, and he goes and gets on the Grandmaster's personal ship, which he learns is his party ship, which he uses for celebrations and orgies and just all this sort of thing. As such, he manages to take it, and Valkyrie and Bruce manage to fly off in Valkyrie's ship, which of course gets the attention of all the higher ups. So the Grandmaster even giving the order saying, "Take to the skies, don't let them leave." And of course, his second in command is flying off in her own ship, trailing after them. Eventually, though, Valkyrie and Bruce manage to escape, with Bruce being ejected into the Grandmaster's party ship, and Valkyrie coming in after her ship gets blown up. However, they still have to get to the Devil's Anus, and they eventually do manage to shake off the Grandmaster's entourage, with Thor and Valkyrie even jumping out of the ship while Bruce pilots it. But eventually, they do manage to get back in, and they do fly the ship into the Devil's Anus, which the ship manages to survive through. As such, they arrive back at Asgard, and we see that Scourge has now been made Hela's executioner, and Hela has been able to figure out that as such, Scourge informed Hela about the resistance, and so they pull out any remaining Asgardian civilians that are left, and they pretty much just tell them, if you don't tell us where Heimdall is, we're gonna just kill it. We're just gonna start killing you guys. And to make an example, they pull out an old lady, and while Scourge does kind of almost hesitate in killing her, he does get the axe ready, but before he can bring it down, one guy does say he knows where Heimdall is. As such, Hela goes to where their safe haven is and pulls the doors down, but Heimdall, being Heimdall, he knew they were coming, so they made a getaway. As such, they want to try and get to the Bifrost to get away, but unfortunately, Hela kind of expected this. As such, she has her big wolf on one end of the Bifrost, blocking that so they can't escape, and on the other side is her army. So pretty much these guys are screwed. However, upon arriving back in Asgard, Thor ends up separating from the group because he needs to go face Hela himself. However, before he leaves, he does give Valkyrie her old gear, which he found in the armory, and it's a nice little superhero suit. It's obviously Asgardian, but fits the kind of theme that we see. It fits the theme we see, and I like it. As such, they get a gun attached to the ship, and so they get a gun attached to the ship, and Thor makes his way to the throne room where he immediately gets Hela's attention by sitting on the throne and knocking on and getting a staff, which causes her to go out. In the meantime, Scourge goes to lead the undead army to bottleneck in the Asgardians, but so Thor and Hela talk, and Thor even admit, and just kind of, and while they do have a talk about the birthright, who's about the war, what about Odin, what he did, pretty much it goes nowhere. As Thor says, yeah, you may have a birthright, but you shouldn't be the ruler of Asgard. And so they end up fighting, and well, while they both do put up a pretty impressive fight, Thor is still out of his league. As like they say, Hela's power comes from Asgard, and the more she's here, and the longer she's here, the more powerful she becomes. So every second, she's just getting better and better. So no matter what Thor is obviously outclassed, and even in the battle, Hela manages to slice into his eye kind of blinding him in this eye. Eventually, the fight leads him to a balcony where Hela tries to taunt Thor by telling him how his people are screwed, and unfortunately, Valkyrie can't take down the wolf all by herself. So, as such, Bruce sees all the people in danger, sees them all trapped, and so he decides he has to do something, whether he likes it or not. As such, he says that he goes out and says, "You want to know who I am? Well, you'll soon see." And so he jumps off the ship to try and head off the wolf, and he just crashes. Like, oh my god, it's like he's a mangled mess. He does not look well. The wolf even sniffs him and just ignores him and goes right back to trying to kill everybody. Before it can take a bite at it, but just before it can jump on the crowd, something stops it. And that something is, of course, the Hulk, who immediately pulls the wolf away and just starts getting into this giant fight with it. However, even with this development, Hela still thinks that she's got the upper hand, like, because she's the goddess of death. What's Thor the god of again? And at that moment, Thor suddenly has another vision of Odin. And of course, Thor thinks that he's kind of screwed, that they can't do anything else with her. He's nothing without his hammer. And so Odin tells him, "Are you Thor, the god of hammers?" And he says, "Well, even if I could beat her, she's taken Asgard. There's nothing we can do." And he says, "Asgard." It's like, Asgard's not a place. This could be Asgard. This could be Asgard. Asgard isn't a place. It's where its people stand. As such, and Thor says, "I'm not as powerful." She's like, you're not. You're stronger." And so this actually managed to get Thor enough of a boost, as we see his eye glowing again, as he summons this giant lightning bolt, which just aims right for Hela, knocking her right off of the building. As such, Thor ends up jumping into the horde, and now he's just supercharged with lightning, and we once again get the "Welcome to the Land of the Ice and Snow" Led Zeppelin song, as Thor just starts walking right through all of Hela's army. And around that same time, it turns out back on Sakaar, Korg led a group of his people and managed to find more of his little rebellion, and they managed to find Loki and turned off his little shot caller. They asked if he wanted to come with them, as they took this giant ship. And so Loki went with them. I'm guessing this is the second ship that could withstand the Devil's Anus, because that ship immediately shows up with Korg and his crew coming to help the Asgardians, and Loki just leading the charge and just kind of doing everything in his power to make himself look good. And it's just a kick-ass scene, as the music's playing, they cut between all the main heroes, with Valkyrie even crashing the other ship, launching all these fireworks that were on it, and just charging forward. And it's just so kick-ass, as they're all just, as we see Hulk, Thor, Valkyrie, Loki, just all kicking ass. And in the midst of the fighting, Scourge realizes he's kind of on the wrong side, as he just abandons his axe and tries to hide inside, tries to put on disguise to hide with all the Asgardians. But unfortunately, Hela's keeping the ship in place using some of her powers, and so Scourge tries to ultimately redeem himself as he pulls out Des and Droy and just starts shooting up all of Hela's zombies. But even with all this in mind, Hela is still walking. She's like, the blast that Thor brought down on her, it did nothing. Which even Loki's saying, "Well, can you throw something else at her?" But no. They're still in Asgard. She's getting more powerful. And with how much power she's accumulated, they can't let her leave. They can't let her get Heimdall's sword, or else otherwise the rest of the universe is screwed. And so they realize that if they want to stop her, they need to take down Asgard. As they know that their people are escaping, they can't just let her escape. They can't let this happen. Of course, they're all hesitant to let Asgard be destroyed, but Thor once again says that Asgard isn't a place; it's where its people are. And so he tells Loki that he needs to go into the vault, find Surtur's crown, and throw it into the eternal flame. Loki, of course, thinks this is madness, but he doesn't have a better plan. So he immediately takes the Grand Master's ship and flies back to Asgard to go to the vault and take Surtur's crown, while Thor and Valkyrie do their best to distract Hela. Scourge manages to destroy that little rock thing that was keeping the ship in place, and he tries opening fire on Hela, but he ultimately runs out of bullets, and Hela kills him. But as such, they keep fighting, and Hela keeps thinking that, and the ship manages to escape, and Loki does manage to find Surtur's crown. Before he throws into the eternal flame, his attention is directed to the Tesseract, aka the Space Stone. And while we don't see what happens next, yeah, you knew that something was going to happen. But either way, he throws Surtur's crown to the eternal flame, and so as Hela's gloating to Thor that she's won, that they're not going to be able to beat, that she's won, that they can't beat her, Asgard is hers. Thor says, "Yeah, you're right. Asgard's yours. If you want, you can have it. I can't stop you, but he can." And so behind them, we see flames rising up, and out comes Surtur as tall as a mountain, yelling out, "Look upon me, Asgard, your day of reckoning is here." And of course, Hela realizes, oh crap. And so to even further distract her, Valkyrie and Thor manage to destroy the portion of the Bifrost that she's on, knocking her into the water below. And while Thor and Valkyrie aren't exactly happy seeing what they're seeing, at the same time they know this is the only way to stop Hela. Hela and the people are already safe and far away. They're not going to get hurt. And they say, though this plan almost kind of fails, as the Hulk, after taking care of the wolf, tries to go fight Surtur. And while he does manage to get Surtur to stumble, Surtur just throws him aside. Thor manages to stop the Hulk from further reprisals, saying that, "Come on, just stop smashing." And so the Hulk grabs Valkyrie and Thor and jumps back onto the ship, as Surtur just tears Asgard apart. Hela manages to rise up back from the depths as she just tries to fend Surtur off. But yeah, it's a losing battle, as Surtur takes his sword and not only plunges it into the heart of Asgard, but right on top of Hela. And so Asgard is completely destroyed. And I do mean completely. Yeah, everything. The buildings, the landscape, the water. It's all just annihilated and turned into space dust. However, everyone in Asgard is still alive, and while they are mourning the loss of their home, as long as their people are alive, everybody is safe. Hela's now been defeated, and everyone's just now turning to Thor everyone's turning to Thor. As such, later on, Thor's kind of in a little personal chambers, and we see he's got a little eye patch for himself. But as he's talking, we see that Loki comes in, and it's not an illusion, it's the real thing. And it turns out that he did manage to survive, and we see later that the Grandmaster's ship is now parked on top of this ship, so he obviously made a getaway. And Thor is just happy to see him, and Loki is actually now willing to kind of travel with his brother, and they make peace, and it's nice. I like it. And so the film ends with Thor saying, "Where should they go?" And he asks Meek if he knows where to go, but turns out Meek's kind of dead as Korg stepped on him during the battle. Until Meek suddenly gets up and he says, "Oh, he's fine. Never mind. What was the question?" And so Thor just decides they're going to head to Earth. But of course, Marvel film, we still got our after credits and during credits endings. And the after credits ending is actually picks back up on Sakaar, as we see the Grandmaster after the revolution. And we see that he's pretty much just now either he's in an escape pod, or this is all outside of his building as he and two concubines come out, and he's surrounded on all sides by these Outlanders or whatever. And he just starts clapping. It's like, well done, people, well done. I think we did a good job here. Like, you can't have a revolution without someone to overthrow. So y'all did a good job. Pats on the back all around. So, yeah, let's call it a tie. It's nice. It's funny. But the one that's really significant is the one during the credits, as Thor and Loki are just kind of talking about what they're going to do to Earth. And Loki says, "Do you think it's a good idea?" And Thor says, "Yeah, it's a good idea. Not everyone loves me." Loki says, "Okay, let me rephrase that. It's a good idea for me to go back there." And Thor says no, but he thinks that with the way everything's going, he thinks that everything's just going to work out for them, which is immediately disproven as their ship is immediately set upon by a much larger and more intimidating ship. More on that when we get to Infinity War. So, I love this movie. I mean, oh my god, I love this movie. It is such a fun movie. If I have anything, I think this is one of my favorite MCU films. It is so damn fun and good. I love it. Like, I think its biggest strength is its tone. The first two Thor films, while they did have their jokes and they did try to be funny, this one is silly. It's silly and just all around. It feels like it's just trying to have fun with everything it's given. And it works so well. The mood is set from the very first scene where when Thor is presented to Surtur, he's just laughing, making jokes, and he's kind of lost the whole gravitas like I am Thor, son of Odin. You will bow to me. You dare. I will not be smited by you. Blah blah blah. No, he's just cracking jokes, making fun of Surtur as Surtur's trying to talk to him, and he's hanging from a chain. So he's just so as Surtur's talking, he turns around and is like, wait, hold on, sorry, let me come back around. Okay, continue. You were saying something about Ragnarok. It's just super fun and chill and laid back, and the rest of the film really does, but at the same time, the film does still definitely have a tone and mood to it. It does definitely have a story. The stakes do feel high, and the villains actually are really good. Hela and the Grandmaster are fun villains. Like the Grandmaster, I already gushed on about, and he's just fun. He is a very affable villain. In every scene he's in, you are guaranteed supreme entertainment. That's because this film knows how to use Jeff Goldblum, and he's perfect. His inflections, the way he acts, the way he reacts, like you can tell. Like even when he's angry, he's just like, I'm not happy. You know, this morning I was thinking about doing a public execution, which in a way kind of helps add to his threatening factor because he is so. Because again, he killed a guy by melting him. And you can tell that impulse is still probably there. So when he is talking like this, you know, it's just, all this stuff is kind of normal to him. But with that being said, he likes throwing parties. He has a ship which he uses for hangouts and parties and orgies. And when a certain button, it starts saying, it's my birthday! And just starts shooting fireworks. It's just, like, he's so fun. Every scene that the Grandmaster is in is so fun, and I love it. And again, it even helps when you see his second in command, who is just this stonewall bitch. She doesn't take anything seriously. She is blood hungry. She hates Valkyrie. When the Grandmaster wants to compliment her, she calls her trash, and he's like, "What the heck's up with you?" Which in turn adds to his fun factor because she's willing to go for the deadly method first. Like when the Grandmaster's chewing out Loki and Valkyrie, Loki briefly interrupts the Grandmaster, and the Grandmaster's like, don't interrupt when I'm talking. And then she brings out the melting stick. Whoa, why are you handing me the melting stick? He interrupted me. That's not a grave offense. It's just fun. And even when the uprising is happening and his slaves are getting, it's like, oh no, don't say that word. Don't say that word. Don't say the S word. It's like, okay, I'm sorry. The prisoners with jobs are causing a riot. It's really funny, and he's just great. And then you have Hela. Hela is not only funny, but she's legitimately threatening. Everything about, like, her motivation is just, I want power. My dad didn't want me to have power, and so dad decided he didn't want to be power hungry anymore, so he left. And so he banished me. It's simple motivation, but the film portrays the character perfectly. Hold on, I think her name might be in here. I'll have to look it up later. Sorry, I don't remember the actress's name. But the actress who plays Hela does her perfectly. She has a lot of good, funny, quotable lines that I think are really nice. Like when she goes to Asgard, she explains her history, how she's the firstborn, how she's going to rejoice, how she's going to destroy, how she's the rightful ruler. And then when the Chinese guy says, whoever you are, whoever you were, whoever you were before, you're not going to stop. He's like, whoever I am, did you not hear me talking? It's really not. It's actually really. She's quotable and funny, but she is so threatening. She has a gravitas to her. Like, everything is no big deal to her. She is threatening, but at the same time, But, like, she's threatening. Like, she can kill you with a second glance. This is just all easy for her. Like, when she first appears, she's like, oh, Odin's dead. Shame. Kind of would have wanted to see that for myself. Oh, she does that. She's kind of snarky, but she's subdued. She's threatening, and she is so diabolical. She is clear, like, every second she's on screen, it's clear she's enjoying every single despicable act she's committing, and it comes through perfectly. It is such a fun villain. Like, she's so arrogant and so full of herself, but she is still threatening, and you can tell that arrogance does have a basis. Like, the only time she ever flinches in the movie is when Surtur comes out, and that's only because that thing is here to destroy Asgard, her birthright. That's the only, and since her power comes from Asgard, if it goes, she's doomed. As such, it's just really not. As such, yeah, these villains actually are a vast improvement. Another thing I like, the worlds. As I said about the first Thor film had such spectacular imagination with its worlds and its design. It looked, and so when it was allowed to get big, it looked great and epic and amazing to look at. We're seeing Asgard and the Frost Giants' own planet. I forgot what it was called. I'm sorry. Those worlds looked great, as opposed to the second film, where the only worlds we saw were forests, a dark wasteland, and rooms in Asgard, instead of Asgard itself. It's just kind of lame. But even this film ultimately tries expanding more on actually gives us a bit of a bigger Asgard. It's still giving us more spectacle to look at. And as for Sakaar, I love this place. It looks so nice. It definitely looks like a dome peep, but when you see the city, it all looks so technological and space themed and so nice. And even the fight scenes are fantastic. I loved seeing the fight between Thor and in the beginning when Thor was fighting through Surtur's hordes, or when he's duking it out with the Hulk, or when Hela's fighting through the Asgardian forces. All of it is so fun and spectacular to look at. You just get pumped watching it, even when it's just a bad guy on screen. It's just so fun to watch, and it's just cool and amazing. It's just real. I know I'm starting to gush over this, but I do really love this movie. And so, but then you still got, and then it's all just, and of course you get some more layers on stuff. You get some more stuff brought in. This film brings in Valkyrie, who, again, I don't know that much about, but I do like how they set up her character. They give her a backstory, and it makes it understandable why she's not exactly willing to go back to Asgard, especially since it's implied she abandoned her team. But when she's reminded of of their last encounter with Hela, and even with the fact that Hela is still around, she realizes she needs to get back. She can't just ignore this. She has to do something, especially when even when she confronted Thor, and Thor said he wanted to go back to Asgard. She thought that she just wanted to go back because it's ruled by kings. That kings are not something you should have. And Thor says, "I agree, but I don't want to go back there to rule. I want to go back there because the people are in danger. I can't just let them get hurt." It's a very nice thing, and it helps. It helps feed into her story arc. And that's another thing I like, the story arcs. It's kind of like there's a theme in this film that seems to be about acceptance of grand fate in a way, which in a way is kind of subversive. It kind of seems counterintuitive, but in a way it is something that feels different. But it is something that's done, I think, well enough. Like Thor, since Thor the Dark World has not wanted to be king, but he knows that someone needs to step up and rule Asgard with Odin gone, and since Hela's not exactly someone that should, and since Hela's kind of a monster, he can't just let her be the ruler. As such, he realizes he does need to step up. Valkyrie is trying to run away from her problems, but at the end of the day, she realizes she can't just let Hela go around causing all these problems. She needs to step up and do something. And again, I think the biggest thing that I like is the Hulk. We do see him back in, and this film continues his story arc, which was from Age of Ultron. Like in that if you remember from Age of Ultron, at the end of that movie, the Hulk was just kind of in a state. It was just kind of a mess. And I don't mean like he was a mess, like he was done bad. I mean emotionally, he was a mess. He was screwed. Thanks to the Scarlet Witch causing him to go nuts and go on a rampage, everyone in the world thought he was a danger and kind of wanted his head. Bruce and the Hulk were traumatized. Bruce didn't want anything to do with this anymore. He wanted to run away. He wanted to go back to. He wanted to run away with Natasha and just kind of lead a quiet life. And so but then that didn't even end well when he went to go save Natasha. He said, "I'm sorry, but I need the big guy." And so to provoke him into turning into the Hulk, she pushed him off a balcony, which in turn had him turn into the Hulk. So he would have to help out with a fight against Ultron. Which in a way I think just further pushed away as he felt that the only person that he could trust now just used him like everybody else. And so faced with people he didn't think were his friends in a world that hated him, it makes sense why he would run away. It makes sense why the Hulk would most likely shut Bruce out. Because he doesn't want that anymore. He's trying to run away from all that. He run away from everything associated with Bruce Banner from the world. He's trying to forget his problems too. Hence why when he comes to Sakaar, he's happy here. The people love him. They cheer his name. No one's there to use him except maybe the Grand Master, but he's okay with that because he gets to beat people up. He's happy here. And so when Thor arrives, and Thor's kind of stuck here too, in a way he's happy to see Thor. Though at the same time he still thinks Thor just is using him. Like when Thor talks to both the Hulk and Bruce Banner, both say to him the exact same thing. You're not my friend, you don't want me, you want the other guy. Which in turn also leads to a comedic scene where Thor tells him, no, I do like you, it's the other guy I have a problem with. But, for both Bruce and the Hulk. But it helps layer in the Hulk's character. He doesn't want to be used anymore. He's angry, he's volatile, and here he feels like he can be accepted. But then when Thor tries to make his getaway and he's confronted with the image of Black Widow, he realizes he can't hide anymore, and it stirs feelings in him that he tried to bury, which brings back Bruce Banner. And then in turn, Bruce also has his own internal struggles as he's trying to now deny the Hulk, the same way the Hulk denied him. As he knows that if he transforms back, like the Hulk, he wants nothing to do with these conflicts anymore. He's tired. He wants a normal life. And he knows that, and with what happened, he knows that if he turns into the Hulk again, he may never come back. And so he doesn't want to take part in Thor's fight. And while Thor is willing to bring him with him, he doesn't want to be here anymore. He just wants to just be done with all this stuff. But then at the end of the film, when Hela's forces are converging on the Asgardians and they're in danger, and he realizes that the gun that Valkyrie is using to fend off Hela's giant wolf isn't working, he realizes he can't just sit there and do nothing. Even if he doesn't want to do this, he realizes he has to. Because if he doesn't, innocent people will die. And it's a really good furthering of the arc. As we see Bruce trying to deny that side of his life, but at the end of the day, he knows that, once again, quote Uncle Ben, with great power comes great responsibility. And if he can save those people, he should. And so he willingly turns into the Hulk again, even though he knows he may not be coming back, but he wants to save these people. It's a really good arc, and I like that. I like that. And so the film is sprinkled with that. We see Thor reuniting with his brother, him and Loki having to learn to trust Thor having to learn to trust Loki again, and it's gradual and nice. Even when Thor says, "There was a time that I thought we'd be fighting forever, but then you went nuts, and now I don't think I'll ever see that part of you again." Again, only for Loki to ultimately side with his brother and even return to the ship, knowing that even though he knows he probably won't be having the throne of Asgard anymore. It's just a nice little scene. I know I gush about the Hulk, but again, there is still a lot more to like. And while I probably do like the Hulk story more because I love the Hulk, at the same time, the rest of the character arcs are nice, genuine, are definitely thought out and well thought out. With that being said, does this film have any flaws in my book? Well, one flaw that I can think of, the biggest one that kind of gets on my nerves, is Thor's lightning power. So don't get me wrong, when Thor calls down the thunder, it is so awesome. It is so kick-ass. I cannot deny that. But how is he able to do that? I know they're saying, oh, he's the god of thunder. He should be able to control that. Well, why? What? Why? Well, I thought Mjolnir was where the power was. And I know they say in the film, oh, Mjolnir was never had that power. It was just so that you could channel your power. I say BS to that. That is not possible. Like, maybe in the beginning it was Thor's power, and Mjolnir was originally used to channel it, but, and I quote the first movie here, "Whosoever holds this hammer, if he be worthy, shall possess the power of Thor." which means that the hammer now has the power. The incantation that Odin put on Mjolnir makes it so that you only way you can that all the Thor's power is held within it. As in the first Thor film, when Thor was deprived of Mjolnir, he lost his powers. He was a normal man. It wasn't until he became worthy and was willing to die to protect those he loved that he was worthy of wielding Mjolnir again and having his power back. That was the whole driving force of the first movie. But not so. The fact that Mjolnir is gone should mean that Thor is now powerless. Mjolnir was the thing that gave him his power. It wasn't that Mjolnir was channeling it. Maybe the power was his at first, but now Mjolnir has had it. Whoever wields this hammer shall have the power of Thor, and Thor himself was worthy, so he got his power back. But now that Mjolnir is gone, there should be no more power. He should be completely powerless, and they do it. And so I don't understand this. Maybe it's because he was using Mjolnir so frequently before, maybe the powers were slowly being transferred to himself. Well, in that case, why can't he use his powers without a weapon in the next movies? Why not? I don't know. I have abso-friggin-lutely no idea. Maybe it's a mix of both. If you wield the hammer, you'll have Thor's powers, or Thor need to be in the right state of mind to use his powers. I don't know. It makes no sense to me. It's kick-ass to look at. It's really awesome when he does manage to call down the thunder without having Mjolnir, but it still makes no sense. Makes no sense. It still makes no sense. But honestly, that's the biggest fault I can think of in this movie. I guess you can say Scourge is a big fault too, because they dedicate time to his character development, how he does start off as wanting to prove himself regardless of the authority, but then realizes that what he's doing isn't exactly noble, chickens out, and abandons Hela, and then has a last minute turn. But I don't really care about that arc, and while it is given enough development, he dies shortly after. So while he is a heroic sacrifice, I care more about the other characters. And Surtur, well, I won't really say Surtur had no development. He was mostly just a tool in the grand scheme of this whole film, just there to set Ragnarok in motion. But aside from that one little flaw, which might be a nitpick, might not be, I don't know, this film is just so fun. It is really, really good. The acting is really nice, especially since apparently 80% of this film was improvised, which is kind of Taika Waititi's directing style, and it works. It's funny. It's got great action. The story flows perfectly. The characters all have very interesting arcs that make you interested in them. It does set up new stuff for later, like with bringing back the Hulk and seeing what he was doing, to even introducing Valkyrie. The designs look fan-friggin-tastic. It's a joy to get through. I love everything about this film. On the whole, I think Thor Ragnarok is just such a fun, kick-ass movie. It is by far one of my favorite films in the MCU, and I think even if you haven't seen the first two Thor films, I think you'll get a kick out of this film too. It's really fun, really nice. I just highly recommend it. It is a breath of fresh air from the last two, so yeah. That's all I have to say, everybody. Thank you for watching. I'm Samuel Johnson, and tune in next week as we once again return to Earth as we see another Civil War alumni get his own solo movie as we meet the King of Wakanda himself in Black Panther.